Okay. Okay. So good morning, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Harpal Kochar, and in this presentation today, this topic is very dear to my heart about financial aid basics, not simply for the fact that you pay less, but the fact that it becomes it's a very sensitive topic for most families, and including me. I used to not talk about these with my children until I started paying full, list price for Wellesley College for Shreya at $300,000. And I was like, God damn it, I should have had this conversation earlier that this is stupidity and we shouldn't be spending this kind of money. Make no mistake, I mean, she's gone to an awesome school and everything is fantastic. I couldn't change if I wouldn't change anything, but I would do some things differently in terms of planning for it, giving some more partnership, kind of a joint partnership with the child and me. At $300,000 for a private school, or even at $140,000 for a University of California admission, you're still talking about your biggest investment of life outside of your house. Your house is yours, it appreciates over time, you live in it, whereas a degree, which is not even for you, it's for your child, the gesture is appreciated that you're doing it for a child, but heck, at the end of the day, I mean, this is, you don't know what the payback is going to be. Are you ever going to get a payback? And the child, is he ever going to even complete the 4-year degree or not? Will they become successful in that endeavor? Half the students end up dropping out of these colleges because they're such a stressful place to be in. And the other half don't drop out, land up having a fairly hard time to get, they struggle to get their jobs. So, in my humble opinion, the jury is out on how much the Harvards and the Stanfords really help you. Yeah, they give you a network and yada yada yada, but knowing these basics of financial planning is super important, I think, nonetheless. And again, like I said, all questions are welcome in the deck above. Just send me questions and we'll start from there. Okay. So questions we will talk about is I've got about 5 slides, 5 decks, which I'll be kind of going in between. But the big thing that students want to know, or company, the parents want to know, is how do you reduce the amounts? What are the different options available to me for loans, work studies, scholarships, grants? What the heck is the difference between any of these? Many times people don't even know how much college actually costs. And I used to be one of those suckers too. Many of you are perhaps in the same boat because people think we'll figure it out because everybody sends their children to school. In my opinion, never use your retirement nest egg towards paying towards college. The federal government gives you a $30,000 loan for every student, which can be taken on their own credit history. So basically every US citizen, every green card holder can get a $30,000 loan, which is subsidized, which means the first 4 years while the student is going through college, the student doesn't pay for it, the interest. And you start paying interest only after that. And even that, you have certain forgiveness plans. So if there's anything I would say take away from this session is use that financial aid, that $30,000 the government gives to every student at the least possible interest rate, which is like, I think 4.5%, 5%, which is a typical rate for education loans, very different from other loans and home loans and everything. So use that. That's on the student's own history. And you don't get to do dime for that. There are loans other than that, what's called Federal Plus, which is on your name, which is not subsidized, which means you're paying interest on it from day one itself. But stay within your means. You should know how much you're making, how much you can save on a monthly basis, and that $30,000 limit available, and whatever you've put in your nest egg set aside for college. That should be your total amount you should be thinking about. You should not be planning to spend any more than that, because that leads to a lot of problems for a lot of students I know personally. Okay. So this is interesting that more than half the students that attend college receive some form of financial assistance. Now, this could be 5, 10%, 20%. Even if it is 10% of your assistance for a University of California at if the tuition itself is about $100,000, $40,000 is towards your boarding and everything, at $100,000, even if you get say a 10% in scholarships, that's post-tax dollars. So even if it's 10,000, it's actually not 10, it's more like 18,500, given most people I'm dealing with are in that strata where they're getting taxed at that highest limit as at 40-45% with at a sliding scale. So it's everything, every buck counts, and plan for that. Okay. Knowledge is power. Most of people don't know about these college costs and how they can reduce it. So I didn't know a whole lot either, but now when I tutor a lot of my students who come to my private practice, I'm all over this topic with them. And I make sure the student themselves understands, not just the parent. And sometimes parents are like, why are you telling my student about it? I'm like, no. If you're going to be in my cohort, the student has to be an equal participant in this conversation. So this is just some nomenclature you need to get used to. Net price, ticket price. Okay. We'll talk about many other terms, but the last thing is you want to know all these terms when the college sends you an acceptance letter and saying, Mr. John Doe, you got the admission and this is the net price, yada, yada, yada. And you shouldn't be like, what does this mean? Because if you reach that stage without knowing that, you're already pretty badly screwed. So net price is what you get after subtracting scholarships and grants. Okay. So what happens is, even if your school is subsidizing something, like the school is giving you some kind of merit scholarship, but if you end up getting a grant from outside, the school reserves the right to prorate it for you. Okay. Which means if you get a federal grant, the school might come and say, or you get you win a scholarship, they'll say, we gave you the merit scholarship. We're going to reduce it. We're going to prorate it because we gave it to you thinking you did not have a requirement or you did not need it. Like that's not for merit scholarship. The financial aid profile scholarship that the school gives to you. So there are two kinds of scholarships the school can offer to you. One is merit scholarship thing based on your merit, and one is they'll give you financial aid. If you'll end up getting a scholarship from outside, they will actually reduce your the scholarship they give to you. So know those things. Net price calculators are all over the map. Okay, good one is, best thing I think is to just go to the website of the school. If you aspire to go to a Pomona, to a Caltech, to a Stanford, go on their website. They don't ask you for your name, your nothing. Okay, you can just use the calculator, put in some information about your past, about your income, your assets, and you'll see how much you qualify for. Do yourself one favor. When you finish doing the calculator and you decide that is the school for me, screenshot that calculator results for yourself. Okay, it becomes very handy, especially if your student gets admitted to the school and the college says, I'm going to give you only $10,000 in aid. You can show them that screenshot saying, dude, I went to your website. I did this college calculation. This is what it gave me. Okay, so it's a good way to cross-check on the numbers. There's actually a website where you can, I'll actually find that. Lately, somebody has come up with a website where you can see what similar students are paying. Like when you get an offer from a school, you can upload your offer to that website, and it'll tell you who others have gotten into that school and what was their offer like. Because schools will be very secretive about it, okay? But you can get around that system. So the calculators, like I said, are very important. For a particular college, don't just go by the college board. So there's a generic calculator which the college board provides to you, but and it has two forms called the federal and the institutional. We'll talk about what the differences are, but that is just a very high level perspective. Okay. This is some tips of the calculator. It's not a final determination, but it gives you a ballpark. And I honestly did not do a very good job of looking at these details until, I relied on my college counselor for Shreya. And she happened to be, like most college counselors are good at one thing or the other thing. Some are good at essays, some are good at, academics in the school. Our counselor was good at the academics. She could understand how to put a balanced curriculum together, and she helped Shreya a lot over the years, but she was not financially savvy. So she would always say, oh, financial stuff, we don't advise, talk to your CPA, bullshit, right? You need to have a counselor who can give you all those three pieces of information. Somebody who's astute at school subjects, APs, all of those, and also has a knowledge of the essays, can put a very coherent framework for you and can help you on the numbers. Okay, and that's even though I'm not a CPA, I'm not advised to give, or I don't have a license to give guidance, but I can show you what websites are. I can give you all that information for you to make your own decisions. Okay, now the process of financial aid. How does it work? So you have what's called as the FAFSA. There are, FAFSA is the, like I said, everybody should fill out the FAFSA form, which is the one which you fill out to get federal aid for your student. Like I said, you get about $30,000 over the 4 years, which is subsidized, which is for the student. You can take federal plus loans, little higher loan interest rate, that goes on the parent's credit history. The first one goes for the student, does not require credit history. Highly, highly recommended to make sure you take this. Even for Shreya, we paid whatever 280, 300K for the school, but I cut her a deal. I say, if you graduate in 3 years, I will pay off your federal loan. And she's right now pretty much on track to finish college in 3 years, which means instead of paying $280,000 for the fee and then $20,000 aside, she's going to take away only $210 from me. So she saved me $80,000 and I paid off her federal loan. So you can cut deals with your own children. At the end of the day, this is business. You have to kind of be smart about this. But make sure, even if you're making a lot of money, fill up the FAFSA. Do not think that FAFSA is only for people who need financial aid. You get the cheapest loan from the FAFSA. CSS profile is a form which about 400 colleges, mostly all private colleges, will make you fill out. FAFSA is a little more forgiving in terms of giving you financial aid. Profile is not. For example, if you are separated, you're a single parent, FAFSA doesn't care. They'll just ask for the information of the person who the child lives with. Profile will want to know both the information about the other person as well. You can't just say, oh, we don't have touch with the other spouse or the other parent. We don't know where the person is. You can't just get away with that. They will ask for financial aid information. They'll ask for federal information, the taxes of the other person as well. Okay. Then there are the institutional and scholarship applications, which is, so you have institutional and scholarships. So institutional applications are for scholarship are typically more like 80 to 85% of your scholarships, which means if you land up going to a school like Stanford, the bulk of the scholarships you can get are from Stanford. Okay. Now there are still about 15 to 20% of the total amount, like the total kitty is of like $135 billion or so. Okay, which is given to students as private aid. Out of that, 80 to 85% is done by the colleges themselves. 15% is done by external institutions like a church, a temple, Boy Scouts, all of those guys. Okay, don't think it's small. You're talking billions. We're still talking about 10, 20, 15, $20 billion available in those, and a lot of the scholarships do not even get filled up. Okay, it's a pain in the butt to do those scholarships. But that's what I make my students do in the junior year. I don't make them do it in the senior year. I make them do it in the senior year after applications are done, like in February onwards, if they still have any energy left in them. But most students, I'll make them do it in the junior year itself. Like from February to April, I'll make them fill up a bunch of scholarship applications. So like I said, filling up your FAFSA, starting October, you can fill out FAFSAs, watch for deadlines. Some states have different deadlines. It's free. You don't have to pay to learn how to even fill up FAFSA. I have tutorials on my own in this course itself, and there are links to how to fill out FAFSA. It's not hard. It sounds daunting, but it's not. Okay, it's daunting because you don't know about it. It's not that it can't be done. 1st October is when the FAFSA can start to be completed. Before, the thumb rule is before you finish applying to a school, make sure the FAFSA is submitted for that school. When you open a FAFSA, you can submit FAFSA for application to 10 schools. Okay, so make sure those 10 schools are the first 10 that you're applying to. As I said, this is the first step to getting the loan. Okay, profile is your second tool, which is created to have the one form for non-federal loan. Right, about 400 schools apply for, give you that. And you can see the links over here. Again, this presentation is available for you to download or at least to look at, view on, and it's all the links are live on that. So FAFSA and profile, those are two important forms to remember. Okay. Be smart about external scholarships. Lots of scholarships are there. Okay. You never want to pay anybody. Okay. Now there's some pain in the ass websites like FastWeb and scholarship.com, which will, they overwhelm me, even today, they overwhelm me when I start working with a student, because you can see, like, when you open that form, you see like thousands of scholarships available, each giving you $1,000. Okay. I like actually the smaller ones. I actually create a list of scholarships which do not have too many essays, fairly generic ones, even if they get $500 to $1,000. If I can get my student in the cadence to start filling up one scholarship application every hour, okay, and they spend 3 hours every week from February to May of senior year, or even in sophomore year, they get in the cadence of filling up forms. I can work with them to fill them up. And even if you get a few of them, think of the return on investment. Even if you're getting like $1,000 or like $5,000 worth of scholarships, if your student put in like 50 hours to get $5,000 of scholarships, that's $100 per hour, $100 pre-taxed, okay, or more like post-taxed. So it's more like $130 pre-taxed. So plan for that. I have a pretty silent crowd. I'm not seeing any questions. You guys, is this topic interesting enough for you guys, or I'm happy to change topics too, but if this is hitting some raw nerves, tell me, and and if it's on what line what you want to hear, we'll keep going here, okay? But take your steps to minimize your debt. A lot of times you'll find, I'm of the opinion, students can pay off or your children can pay off their own loans in life. It's not terribly hard to pay off loans, but your retirement, you can't fund it over again. So do not use your retirement nest egg. Or like the other day I was talking to a mom, and she said, I said, how much money have you put aside for the child? And she said, I've put aside $30,000. And I said, what does that mean? She goes, I have $30,000 in my bank which I can use towards this. And I said, what if you get hit by a truck, and what then? She goes, well, I don't have money for that, but she said, I can save $2,000 a month to give towards his education. And I have $30,000 in the bank. My first response was that $30,000 should be absolutely for your nest egg, for your dire straits if you get hit by a truck, to pay for your own mortgages, because your child is not going to bail you out at that time. Okay. And I said, if $2,000 is all you have, and for a fact it is $2,000, plan for more like $1,000, because you don't know if your job's going to be there forever. So plan for $1,000, which means you only have $12,000 a year, $48,000 in 4 years, which means your child should not be going to anywhere but a community college. And then from after once he turns 18 or 20, he goes into a regular college, but after earning the stars, and then he can get a loan from there. Yeah, there's food for you, honey, inside. Okay, and okay. So there is the direct cost of college, which is billable cost, tuition fee, and complex. So typically colleges do show up all these things. Things that they don't talk about is things like travel costs, things that you need to know about, which are your personal expenses. So I typically put aside like $5,000 a year for these indirect costs, and then the tuition cost and the on-campus boarding together. So on-campus boarding typically is about $15,000, which includes cafeteria food and the campus boarding. Tuition is typically whatever the amount is. Okay. Assessing the needs. This is an important thing, right? How do you assess you'll hear this term called expected family contribution. In fact, that's what you will hear from when you go to the FAFSA website or for the calculators. They tell you your EFC based on your assets, based on your incomes. And there's a proration of those things done, how much percentage they take out of each of those. And we'll talk about those calculations too. But that's your cost of attendance, is your the financial assistance you can get, scholarships and assistances and everything, and the amount the student is expected to pay. So this is your cost of attendance, which is a list, minus your EFC, which is the expected family contribution, which is students' contribution, and your parental contribution. This comes up with the concept of financial need. Now, just because you have a financial need doesn't mean the school or the federal government is going to pay for it. Okay. Never estimate that, oh, there is a financial need, so somebody is going to pay for it. Very often, in fact, particularly in private schools, they will say, oh, your financial need, your demonstrated need is say $80,000 over 4 years. they'll say, we'll chip in with $30,000. Okay. And then there's a negotiation you can go through. And I do that a lot for my students, this whole process. But just because it's a financial need doesn't mean somebody has to pay for it. You ultimately, the school can very well say, no, I don't want to pay for it. Okay. You don't have to come to my school. Happens very often. Okay. So these are the factors that your EFE is influenced by. And I talk to parents. I actually know somebody who tried to game the system by, but he stopped working 2 years before the application was due for a whole year or something. And people try all kinds of stupid things thinking that, I hear all kinds of myths, and I've put up many of those in my blogs about, oh, I'll just show my student, my child is independent. No, it's not so easy saying that I don't have them on my system. There's a very clear process, and you don't want to mess with the system because you can go to jail. Firstly, the system is very clear on what a dependent student is, what is an independent student. Then the factors, assets that come into play. The biggest factor that comes into play, I will tell you, is the income. If your total household income is anything over $150,000, which particularly in the Valley, which is where most of my the parents and students I'm talking to is, the chances of getting a financial or getting any kind of financial aid, not merit scholarship, is virtually out. Okay, but that said, private colleges will still give you some. I did have a student last year, and single mom, total income was, I think, 170, 180K. And she ended up getting a pretty darn good scholarship at Santa Clara University, many other schools as well. So you can get it. We'll talk about that too. The family size, age of the oldest parent. Some of these that attend, like FAFSA rules have changed about the current number of students attending college. They were a lot more liberal in the past, but you can see the government is slowly going bankrupt, and it's showing in all this garbage. They basically don't give you anything. This particular one is actually very important. Special circumstances. If you can show health-related expenses, a death in the family, and you can actually, in fact, talk about this even in your essays, how you helped a family member who was recovering from, could be just emotional stress, could be depression, could be, like one of my students her father had a stroke. They talked about that in there, how they worked with the father and how they appreciated each other a lot more over time. So those things can absolutely play a big role in your in getting these financial aids. Okay. Now, what's available in this thing? So these are the 4 types of financial aids that are available. Okay. And you can get loans, work studies, scholarships, and grants. Loans and grants typically are what you have. Loans you have to pay back. Grants, I don't think you pay back any grants. Grants are part of federal grants. Grants will just say they'll give it to you. Scholarships, obviously, you don't pay back. Work study, you don't pay back. So there are some schools which will really encourage work study, like schools like Berea or Baylor or Northeastern. They're big into work study. Okay, so if your child ends up not getting a very good scholarship, but you want him to go to a school where there is a work study option, look for those schools. Merit scholarships are the best route for most of the people I'm talking to. This really helps most of my parents a lot, which is they can get merit scholarships. And merit scholarships are nothing but a grandiose way of calling them discounts that is private schools will give to you. There are some schools, like about 40 to 50 schools in the country, which don't give you any scholarship, okay, merit scholarship. And my daughter's school was one of those, and I didn't know about it until I applied, and I will show you that list as well. So if you're applying to any of those schools, forget it. You're not getting any scholarships from those people, okay? So these are the grants, what you can get. Pell Grants, again, these are typically for the more needy people. There are institutional grants, which is what the institution, the college will give to you. State also chips in for grants, but those are for the state schools. Federal Pell Grants, I believe, are for low-income people only. So, but you can research more about these type. Institutional grant is the only one which is different here. Okay, scholarships. You don't have to be an amazing Division I athlete to get a scholarship. Okay, there are so many scholarships available for very unique things. Like there are even for tap dancers. Okay, like there are scholarships available. Unique people have created unique scholarships in the world, and you just have to find them and you can find them on several resources, which I'll talk about. They are fairly competitive, but they're not so competitive. I mean, for the same scholarship, you might have 50 people applying, but if your essay is, connects to somebody's heart, with the number being so high of people who apply, think of it, or the number of applications you can make. Most applications are garbage. So if you can even spend an hour putting it together, your application can be pretty good. This is the work study option, which is based on demonstrated need. This typically doesn't pay a whole lot when you do work study in the school. Like, they'll pay you $15 an hour. My humble opinion is, do not make the children go through this, because this is very taxing. College is already very hard on these students. Maybe 5 hours a week is maximum you want your students to go through, in terms of they don't get paid a whole lot, and they go through a huge amount of mental stress in general. So I'm not a big fan of this one. But work study with the school allows for where you can get externships. Like at Northeastern, you can externships at Wayfair. Beria gives you similar ones with employers they know very well in their town, where you can get like 30, $40 an hour. And that's really good stuff, because that really shows well on your, like, those guys will make you work for some of the important stuff that they're getting you the internship for, and you get a whole semester off, and that actually works, pays towards your getting your graduation. There's a whole math around that. Then this is the loans we were talking about, the direct and subsidized, which is the ones which I was talking about. Unsubsidized are the ones where you start paying right away. Federal direct subsidized are $30,000. Unsubsidized, I don't know the amount you get, but those are typically the ones which the parents take. Okay. Then there are Perkins, and then there are plus loans for parents. So there are unsubsidized for the student too, but I believe these are only at master's level. At undergrad level, it's only direct and subsidized. And then the last access you want to look at is the private schools, okay, private loan. This is super, super expensive, like literally 10, 12% you'll be paying for these loans, and you'll start paying the interest right away. So be very careful. This should be the last option. These are some of the sources you can look for getting the more information about the types of loans that are available. You can also look at the repayment plans you can get. Like sometimes they actually reduce. You can actually get you can actually get a reduction in your loans. Okay, the student can get those if it's a federal loan, not for a private loan. Federal loans you can. This is just free, so this is not for you guys. Paying for colleges, try going to some of these places, because this is good stuff. And if your child is in the 10th grade, 11th grade right now, this is a perfect time to be looking at this thing, not to be looked upon in the 12th grade. Okay. I'm a big believer in the demonstrated results. So pretty much every school, for every department of theirs, I think Obama had put this into play, which was you have to publish what people are making as money. So what is the top quartile, how much money are they making in the next 10 years? Bottom quartile also you have to give that. So the actual value of your education or the investment, think of this as an investment, not as a fiduciary duty of life. I mean, we don't owe anything to anybody in the world, right? I mean, we only owe to our own retirement. My parents didn't pay jack for my college and everything. So, which is okay, that's fine. And just helicoptering is probably not my way of thinking. So, I'm gonna